So another feature is on the more serious side is end-to-end encryption. So you led the industry in that. It was launched 1 year and 3 months ahead. Can you speak to why you decided to add end-to-end encryption, how you developed the encryption algorithm in the beginning? What was your thinking behind that?
So at 2013, when we were launching Telegram, we were aware of the serious issue with privacy that Edward Snowden made very clear. And we thought, yes, we're designing this product in a way that is already extremely secure, but we want to make sure that not even we can access user messages. And we understood very clearly that a bunch of people who were born in Russia don't necessarily inspire trust. So that's why we made Telegram open source. So all our apps have been open, available on GitHub since 2013. And then we added end-to-end encryption in our secret chats, which WhatsApp copied a few years after. 1 year and 3 months ahead, they just started to test it. They rolled it out, I think, 2016, which is 3 years after us. And the only reason I think the rest of the industry had to do it is because we set the standard. It was incredibly important back in the day, and at the same time, we realized certain limitations of end-to-end encryption. So within that design, that architecture, you can't support very large chat communities with consistent, persistent chat histories. You can't support huge one-to-many channels. You'd have issues with maintaining bots that have lots of incoming messages. Multiple device support becomes tricky. People will end up losing some of the documents they share. So we also saw a lot of issues. And we ended up having this sort of hybrid experience where, depending on your use case and your requirements, you can choose the level of encryption that you want to have.
So that's why you chose to go opt-in for end-to-end encryption. So the trade-off there that you're describing is between, for people who really care about specific messages, extreme privacy on those messages, and usability, like being able to sync across multiple devices, having groups that are 200,000 people. So all of those features that quality of life features, there's a trade-off between those and end-to-end encryption. So you lean towards letting users sort of enable end-to-end encryption for cases when they want to be super secure.
Yes, and secret chats are not just end-to-end encrypted. There are certain limitations that are both the feature and the bug. For example, you can't screenshot them. You can't forward any document, any message from them, which is not necessarily something you need when you're trying to get some work done and you're just communicating with your team on a project. So it became very clear to us that there are different needs here. And if you try to combine both in one type of chat, you will end up losing a lot of utility. We at Telegram, we don't use any collaboration tool for teamwork. We use Telegram to build Telegram. So we felt instantly when we were trying to switch to, say, secret chats to share large documents and try to get work done. It was just not adapted for it. At the same time, if you were really paranoid, you think, I don't want to be screenshotted. I don't want to have any leaks. I don't even trust Telegram. I only trust code. Secret chats are the best option. I believe it is the most secure means of communication today.
And we should say that there's a lot of other aspects to this that are important. Like, for example, Telegram is the only app that has open source reproducible builds for both Android and iOS. Why is this important?
So you need reproducible builds in order to verify that the app really does what it claims, really encrypts data in a way that it is described on its website. For that, you need to make your apps open source for any researchers to have a look at it. So Telegram has been open source since 2013. Apps like WhatsApp have never been open source, so you don't really know what they're doing and how exactly they encrypt your messages. What's important here, though, is to understand whether the version of the app that you download from the App Store corresponds exactly to the source code that you can view on GitHub. And for that, you need reproducible builds. As you said, Telegram is the only popular messaging app that does that. We allow people to make sure, both on Android and iOS, that the source code of Telegram on GitHub and the app you're actually using is the same app. I think it's incredibly important, not just to gain people's trust, but just to stay transparent and open about it. When I make this claim that Telegram's secret chats are the most secure way of communicating, I really mean it, because I haven't seen any fact contradicting this claim. At least among the popular messaging apps, you say WhatsApp, Signal, iMessage. None of them have reproducible builds on both iOS and Android. None of them had, at least at the same level, put so much effort into making sure that the algorithms that you use in order to encrypt data are not algorithms that have been handed to you by some agency in order to create a honeypot. At least from what I know about our competitors, I don't think they went through the same process.
So we should say that the entirety of the software stack in Telegram is done from scratch internally to Telegram. So we're talking about not just the encryption, but everything running on the servers. So the servers are built out, the hardware and the software are all done internally, which is one of the ways you reduce the attack surface on the entire stack that handles the messages.
It does make it more secure, because if Snowden's revelations taught us anything, is that very often open source tools, modules, libraries that are used by everybody ended up having certain flaws and security issues that make your software vulnerable. It's also a way to make sure you're doing things the most efficient way possible. But it's extremely difficult to do that. You really have to have exceptional talent in your team to achieve this level of thoroughness, to go to a low level of coding that allows you to recreate from scratch database engines, web servers, entire programming languages. Because the programming language we use on the back end to develop the API for the client apps is also entirely built by our team.
Yeah, so minimizing the reliance on open source libraries is extremely difficult. Because most companies, they rely on open source libraries.
Well, I wouldn't say we completely independent from that. We use Linux on the back end. There's no way of avoiding it for us at the moment. But for the most part, we are much more self-reliant than most other apps.